Connie is surprised to find herself worrying most about her oldest son, 14-year-old Pete. She always considered him the easiest of her 4 children, more flexible than his 8-year-old twin brothers, and more social than his 16-year-old sister. He's the one who makes friends easily, usually within 2 days of moving to a new place. He's changed schools 4 times already, but he never complains, and never seems to worry about his dad, who is active duty Navy. Connie says she couldn't ask for a more helpful son during her husband's deployments, but this time she's worried that he's given up basketball, worried that his mood's a bit changed toward a new edginess, and especially worried about his grades.
I don't think Pete's ever known how to worry, really. He's a dirt bike fanatic and he loves to do tricks on his skateboard. He's absolutely fearless. In fact, I sometimes wish we could teach him to worry more. He used to be a fanatic about basketball too, but this season he didn't even try out. He said his ankle was still sore from a skateboard crash, but, I think it really has more to do with his dad being away. Basketball was kind of their thing, and Pete says it just doesn't feel good to play without him. I tried to talk about it, but, he just shrugged me off and said, no big deal. I don't know if I believe him. My daughter says I've got it wrong, that Pete's just a shrimp compared to most of the other players. They've shot up and he just hasn't hit his growth spurt yet. So maybe that's the bigger deal. I don't know, and of course Pete's not going to talk to me about it. He doesn't really complain about anything. Like last Saturday, I canceled a shopping trip with him at the last minute. He'd been waiting and waiting to get new sneakers. His are ruined. But my car needed to go in the shop, and when I told him, he just shrugged and said, no worries, Mom. I was relieved because it made my life a whole lot easier that day, but it probably wasn't so good for him. I don't want him to feel like he's always at the bottom of my to-do list. He'll still do anything I ask, but, he's not in a good mood all the time like he used to be. He's a bit grouchier, like he's got a bit of an attitude. But he is a teenager now, so, maybe that's just normal. Honestly, it's really his grades that are really worrying me. They've always been B's and a C here or there, but his last report card, it was all C's and only 1 B. We moved once again in the middle of last year, so maybe Pete's still catching up. Our kids have done a lot of that. I feel guilty that maybe he's slipping because I haven't been on him enough, like when he was younger. He can do the work, but he forgets to bring home his books or forgets to hand in assignments. One of my friends said I should really get him checked out for ADD, and another said, maybe you should get him checked for depression. The base we lived near before had a teen group, but there isn't one here, and I really miss that. I think he's just a teenager, but I sure wish I understood teenage boys better.
Does Connie's story sound familiar to you? Do you or a friend have an early teen like Pete? Connie's wondering about what is just teenage behavior and what should she be more concerned about. Pete's a good kid, but a little like Bettina in our other middle school story, he doesn't share much of what he's thinking or feeling at a time in development when children and their environments are changing. And it can be a really confusing time for parents. If Connie came to see me, I'd want to hear about the kind of boy Pete's always been, so that we could compare Pete now to Pete in the past. This is always a good way for me to start to answer the question about whether a parent should be concerned or not concerned. I'm considering what has changed from that child's baseline, and then how are things going at home, at school, and with friends. Connie describes Pete as easygoing, helpful, social, and a bit of a daredevil. What's changed is that his grades are slipping at his new middle school, and his mood is maybe a little different at home. Connie has her hands full with 4 active children, especially with her husband deployed, and it sounds like Pete's norm is to be really helpful around the house and to make friends easily, but that maybe he's also always needed a little help staying organized with his schoolwork and not worried much, not about school or about risky skateboard tricks. So it sounds to me like the main change is at school. When children move on to middle school, the organizational demands go way up. Multiple teachers, more complex schoolwork, and more homework. So they need better study skills and good time management. Connie's friend is correct. This can be the age when children with attention deficits may run into difficulty. The ability to set priorities and stay focused on schoolwork is called executive function. When a teen's executive function is not as well developed, and if there's additional stress and some more worry, then the inability to focus can get worse. Still, there are lots of possibilities to explain lower grades, and attention deficit disorder is one. Take a look at the screening questions for ADD in the Home-Based Community Center to learn more about the symptoms. You'll also find information about how school testing can be helpful. Many adolescents, especially boys Pete's age, simply find schoolwork uninteresting. And boys are less likely to work hard just to please a teacher. It may take them a few more years of maturity or a sense that grades really do matter to get many teenage boys to start to do their best. Connie recognizes that multiple school changes may have added challenges for Pete. In middle school, the academic work of one year often depends on the work of the previous one, and Pete switched schools right in the middle of last year. In my experience, military-connected children who move to a new community may get placed in classes where there are openings and not necessarily in the classes that are right for them. Does this sound familiar to you? It shouldn't happen, but it can, and it places an additional burden on military families at the time of a move. When it's possible, it's best to reach out to the school in advance and get enough information to know whether you're going to have to advocate for appropriate placement or for extra services. At this point, I'd encourage Connie to call the school and ask for a meeting with all of Pete's teachers to discuss his academic needs. She may find that most of them don't even know that Sam, Pete's father, has deployed. Middle school is really different than elementary school, where a single teacher is more likely to know about changes occurring at home and can keep an eye on how each student is doing in her class. With multiple teachers, a student who's not doing as well in all his classes just may not be recognized. Each teacher might think Pete's just a little behind in that class and be unaware of his performance across the board. I might ask Connie if there's a teacher from a previous school who really got Pete. If she said yes, then she might consider contacting that teacher to talk through Pete's current difficulties and get some perspective and advice to share with his new teachers. Pete's passion for skateboarding gives him plenty of exercise, but unlike basketball, it doesn't connect him with a good coach. While Connie didn't express worries about Pete's friends, and his friends may be terrific, it's hard when you're new to a community to assess your child's friends. Sometimes 14-year-old boys in groups without supervision are egged on, one by the other, to do dangerous or foolish things. As Connie gets to know her new community, maybe she can find Pete an activity with good adult supervision. Is there a club or work setting where Pete could learn to repair bikes or skateboards? If Pete's willing, she could also ask the basketball coach if there's an opportunity for a special tryout. In my experience, many military children and teens say that activities they shared with their parent, like sports, don't feel the same when that parent is deployed. Basketball may make Pete miss his dad. He might feel guilty about playing while his father is in harm's way, or seeing teammates with their dads may be just too hard to watch. Was this an issue for your child? If you have recommendations for other parents, please share them with us at the Home-Based Community Center. It could be something completely different that's worrying Pete. Maybe he doesn't want to share his feelings and worry his mom. My recommendation is always to let teens know that you don't want them to worry alone. Connie could tell Pete that she plans to check in with him regularly for just this reason. She also may want to plan some one-on-one time with Pete, going out for pizza or just watching him on his dirt bike. It won't be easy to fit into her schedule, and it's important to be realistic. Maybe it's once every 2 weeks or even 3 weeks. But having set times will help Connie keep a pulse on how things are going. So to answer Connie's question, first we considered what about Pete now is different than Pete in the past, and the main change is in his grades. There are different possibilities, but to understand them better, Connie needs the help of Pete's teachers now and maybe some input from a teacher who knew him well in the past. Pete may also benefit from an activity that engages him with a good coach or mentor, especially until his dad returns. And finally, Connie can carve out some one-on-one time with Pete so that even if he doesn't demand her attention, she makes sure he gets enough of it to learn what's on his mind. When Sam returns from deployment, there will be a long list of ways that he can be proud of Pete's important role serving on the family home front. It's never too soon to thank children and teens for the ways they pitch in and help during a deployment or any challenging family time. Hard work and sacrifice feel very different, in the most positive way when they're connected to appreciation. Did Pete remind you of your child or another child you know? Please let us know if this video was helpful to you by rating it. Thank you for sharing your feedback. It's important to us.